Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Strong New York podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Santucci. And as always, we are powered by Celsius. So grab yourself a can and live fit. So in my quest to find the ends of the internet and help Strong New York become the biggest event it could ever possibly be, I was looking for someone who's a relationship expert, because I believe that the body atrophies when you don't exercise and the brain atrophies when you don't use it. You don't communicate and work with other people and interact with other people. So I found the beautiful Kate Shelor as I was scrolling through the internet, trying to find someone who could help me understand relationships better for myself and then for my audience as well. So without further ado, the beautiful Kate Shelor, hypnotherapist and also intimacy coach. So
yes.
I want to talk about both. Obviously, the more exciting one would be the intimacy part.
Mm-hmm.
How does one become an intimacy coach?
There are a lot of paths. I mean, for me, my path really, it started from my own journey. I hate that word, but I decided I wanted to get into hypnotherapy. I was really interested in it. And I got certified. And during the process of learning hypnotherapy, you're working with other people, you're hypnotizing people, you're working in therapy situations with clients, but you can't help but apply what you're doing to yourself. Mm-hmm. And during that process, really, I was faced with finally dealing with something that had been a huge issue my whole life, which was my challenge is orgasming in front of another person. I had it my whole entire life.
Were you like shy about it?
It wasn't shyness necessarily. I didn't feel like I was particularly sexually shy. But I had had some, a traumatic experience when I was in college. And I really felt like I was over it because I'm a very forward-moving person. It was like consciously I felt like that sucks, that happened, I'm fine. Moving on. But obviously my body felt differently. And so every time I would get into a sexual situation, I would just come up against a wall. And I did not know how to fix it. And
Before that situation, was it?
Well, there wasn't a lot of sexual experience before that situation. Okay. So I don't have a lot to compare to.
Okay.
But I could orgasm on my own, just as soon as another person was in the room. I had a huge problem. So this was something that at this point in my life, in my 30s, I just sort of resigned myself to the idea that that wasn't in the cards for me. I'd done therapy, I had tried toys, I'd tried watching all the TED Talks in the world. And I just wasn't able to do it. I wasn't able to move forward. You can watch therapy, you can listen to someone, you can go through your past, and that's all fine, but the actual mechanism, you can say, I think I should lose weight, right? Mm-hmm. You can say that and agree with all the experts all day long, but that doesn't change what happens when you run up against a bad day or stress. Or it's like, somebody can tell you to eat less sugar and you're like, absolutely. And then when you're in a situation where it's in front of you, you still do it. And it's like, well, how do you change? Just the idea isn't enough. And I think that was my problem. I agreed with all the experts, but I still couldn't change. Yeah. And then I started doing self-hypnosis, basically, during this process. And very shortly afterwards, I was able to orgasm with another person. And it was a very emotional process, hypnosis, with a lot of crying, a lot of tears. Yeah. Good hypnosis should be emotional. And that's when I started to realize that I wanted to help people with their issues. I looked around at hypnotherapy and everybody's helping people with, smoking and weight, but nobody's talking about relationships. Nobody's talking about how we treat our bodies. No one's talking about sex. No one's talking about body confidence or orgasms or erections. And all of that is tied into how you feel as a person, how you feel as a man, how you feel as a woman. So I was like, why is no one talking about this? Why is no one helping anyone? So I just started to talk about it on, my social media, and people just started DMing and messaging and telling me things that they were struggling with and asking questions. And that's when I really realized that's where I wanted to focus. So it was an accident that I got into focusing my work on sex and sexuality and relationships. But it was a happy accident.
I think there's a lot of people out there when they finally confront what their biggest problem is. For me, it was like the way I ate and the way I was physically. And that's what I help people with now.
Yeah.
Because when you start to expose your issues and like pull that dark side of you out and say, hey, this is what's wrong with me, you know, you could help so many more people because you're just as invested as they are. They want to solve the issue and you're like, well, I solved it for me. Let me help you now.
Yeah. And I think as dark as we feel that our problems are, we're usually not as unique as we think we are.
No.
And so there's so many people that struggle with the same things, and actually so many people struggling with sex and their bodies and don't really have a place to talk about it, ask questions, or go. And I think a lot of people to go to a therapist feels a little bit inaccessible.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to go set up and a lot of traditional therapists, they actually require very little, sometimes no sex and sexuality education. So unless you go to a therapist who says that they are sex positive, specifically kink informed, or have specific education, they might not have any at all. Even a marriage counselor, marriage therapist.
I think I still feel like in this country, we look at sex so taboo. Like, don't talk about it.
It's something very separate. We kind of separate it as this like very secretive, dirty act, but it's like it's why we're all here.
Yeah.
It's the most foundational part of our
it's
lives.
what everyone's doing, and we act like nobody's doing it.
Yes.
I just feel like as of recently, and you hear a lot of this research that a lot of younger, like this Gen Z generation, they're not having sex as much.
No.
They don't feel as into. I mean, we're the same age, so I feel like sex was like kind of out there a lot. Like you watch a lot of the movies that we grew
American
up on.
Pie, we were all like very
it was
excited
all
by
very
this.
sexual, right? Like we were all like, oh, it's kind of dirty, but we all want to do it.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't seem that way, but there's this hyper sexual kind of subculture
Repression,
with OnlyFans
I think,
and things like that. Yeah. So what do you think's really going on? Like, I mean, I feel like you might have your finger on the pulse a little bit better than I do.
Well, so there's a few different elements to what you just said. The first is Gen Z. I mean, I have four stepdaughters who are all Gen Z, and they are all teenagers going up to the age of 20. Mm-hmm. And it's not just sex. Yes, they're not having sex, but they're a generation that just knows too much.
Yeah.
They know too much. You know, my oldest stepdaughter, she's like, I go online and I feel paralyzed because every other video was telling me I'm supposed to be doing something or not supposed to be doing something. I'm supposed to be doing hot girl walks. I'm supposed to be not drinking alcohol. I'm supposed to be very aware of not offending anyone. I'm supposed to be doing skincare. I'm supposed to have friendships. I'm supposed to get out from behind my phone, but I'm also supposed to be journaling. I'm supposed to be exercising. There's too much information.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely paralyzing. And the same thing, everybody's hyper aware. This is not a bad thing, but there is a double-edged sword here when it comes to like, you know, everyone's so aware of boundaries, of consent, of not offending anyone, of not, you know, and I think it's a very intimidating world then to even approach another person. They don't even want to approach other people to order a burger.
Yeah.
Much less to ask for a date or socialize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, can you call the Chinese restaurant and order our takeout? It's like, oh, no. Can we order it online? Like, so of course, actual human contact is very intimidating. But I also think that there's just the hyper sensitive awareness of everybody's problems and everybody's issues around the world actually, I think, is quite paralyzing.
It's funny to me because even my nephew is 18 years old. He's going into college. Good looking kid. He's in shape. All his friends work out. And he was telling me, he's like, no, all my friends are virgins. And I go, you guys are all seniors in high school and none of you guys got laid yet? And, you know, not to be weird about it, but like most of my friends, like sophomore, junior year, you're kind of, you have a girlfriend, whatever happens. Now it was kind of odd to me when I was talking to him about it, because I go, what's the holdup? And he's like, exactly what you said. They're just so hyper aware. It's like they're afraid to approach girls. They don't know what to talk about with them.
And you don't want to like, oh, she's at the gym. They don't want to be bothered at the gym.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is true. But it's also like, where are you supposed to ask people? I saw this
because they don't drink as much.
Nobody's going out to a bar.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere. And they're like, yes, but alcohol isn't good for you. I'm like, you guys are just too aware. Yeah. I get that it's not, but be young.
Well, one of the things that I was talking about with a lot of people, and like how I kind of came upon you, I go, people aren't going out to bars anymore. A friend of mine owns 6 bars that are very popular here in New York. They're all like college bars, kind of like a little bit older. And he's like, dude, sales are down in the last 5 years, like 30%. So our generation, all we did was drink. It was cool.
Yes.
There are multiple times I've been to Vegas and Miami and spending thousands of dollars on bottle service because that's what like was cool. These kids aren't doing that anymore.
And they're also like, ugh, that's lame and cringe. Like, that's not how much alcohol costs. And that's not, and I'm like, you are right.
Yeah.
But also, your alternative is to be home alone. Exactly. I also think there is, and we are part of this industry, so we play a role in this, both of us do, which is this extreme hyper-focus on ourselves as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone is now working on their fitness and their health and their mental health and their physical health. So it's like, you're not going out even you're like, I'm at the gym and I have my headphones on. I don't want anyone to talk to me. I'm here to work on my glutes. And so it's like, nobody is even looking to try to like socialize, meet. It's a very much, I think we have a society now that is I'm focused on my journey, my personal growth. We're all focused on our personal growth, but it's like, what about our communities? What about your neighbors? What about your friends? I don't think we're focused on growth around us. I think we're all very focused on ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I talk about a lot, and I share this story a lot, where my parents were together for 46 years.
Wow.
My mom only knew my dad, and my dad passed away in 2019. You know, he didn't really take great care of himself, but now what I hear from a lot of women is like, well, I don't want to die alone, so I got to meet somebody, but I don't know where to meet them because I don't like using apps and I don't go to bars and I don't want to talk to anybody in the gym. It's like, you got all this,
I don't know, you got to pick one.
Yeah, you got to pick something. And I think what's holding people back is that they're like, all right, I can't go here, I can't go there, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. Well, then you have nobody, and now you turn around and you're 35 and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do? But I don't want to die alone. But I try to help people understand that, like, we all die alone unless you die in a car accident together or a plane or something.
Even then, I mean,
the
process is alone. I mean,
and I said, like, my mom, you know, my father and her never went anywhere without each other. And, you know, he died and now she spent the last 6 years of her life by herself. But I go, thank God they always spent a lot of time with their friends. So now my mom has this like First Wives Club.
That network, that community.
It has helped her so much. And I tell people, get a significant other, find them. Not at the expense, though, of you living your life. Like, I like smoking cigars. Last night I went to a men's group at this place called Othership with 5 guys from my gym. Oh. 2 of them are married now. And I go, guys, come. This will be fun. You know, we'll hang with other guys. Yeah. And it's a little kind of quirky, a little like kind of seance-y fucking, but whatever. I mean,
you're wearing capes, you're chanting.
No, we're there.
But you're socializing. Yes, you're building community.
But it was cool. But it's like, we're there and we're talking to a bunch of guys we would have never talked to.
It's healthy.
You don't have your phone. You know, they had some like spiked seltzers or some shit they were giving out. And I said, we need to do more of this because just because you're married doesn't mean you can't have any other friends. I actually think that is one of the unhealthiest things we can do to our relationships, which is to look to that other person to provide everything. Yeah. Yes. The burden of that is so great. You have to be my best friend. You're my confidant. You're my lover. You are my travel buddy. You're who I talk to when I'm stressed. I tell my gossip to you. Everything is on that person. Well, first of all, that's a tremendous amount of pressure in both directions. No one can be everything to everyone all the time. And
also, I think it is much more attractive when you can go out and have an experience and come back and talk about it.
Yep.
You know, and have, that's sexy, that's exciting, that keeps novelty fresh. And it also gives your partner a break from having to shoulder your happiness on their shoulders and vice versa.
One of the things I say all the time is, to me, the most attractive thing in a woman, obviously aside from her looking a certain way and being into health and wellness like I am, like I need somebody who's into that, but also who has their own shit going on, who has their own life, their own friends. You know, to me, there's nothing more appealing than somebody who's like actively going after something. Like they have some sort of goal. Like I never want somebody who's just a leech.
But I think people that are hyper controlling are also risk averse. They're so terrified because, you know, if you have a partner who has a life and has friends and has a job, she may meet other people. She may cheat on you. She may like someone else. There's risk. So to mitigate that risk, you'd rather have someone that does, has nothing.
A mouse.
And it's like, that is the trade-off many people subconsciously are willing to make. And of course, that's a reflection of you and your own issues, you know, but but I also think, you know, if you have people now are more risk averse than ever, literally and emotionally, right? You don't even want to
take a chance on it. Well, I think our society has done that because even for myself, and I'll be dead honest, for me, one of my biggest fears, I've seen so many of my friends get divorced, just taken to the cleaners.
Yes, I have seen that as well.
And it's terrible. And on both ends, both men and women.
I don't know what the solve is. I think it's really complicated. I have seen men absolutely destroyed financially, and which becomes emotionally destroyed. And for the rest of your life. And I also understand, you know, if a woman decides to have kids or something, you know, then later in life goes through a divorce, they don't have the means. I don't know what the answer is, but it feels not right.
One of the focuses of the event that we're doing this year is on women's health, like pre and post menopause.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a forgotten demographic of people because I think women after 40 are like, fuck, I'm useless now, or no one likes me, or, you know, men don't look at me anymore. But it's like, no, if you start to help and focus on yourself, a lot of my clients are women who are either divorced or a little bit older. They have some kids and they feel like they're useless now to the world. I'm like, no, help focus on yourself, work on yourself, become, you know, do whatever you can to help yourself. But it's also, it goes the other way, even with men. Like guys are like, well, I'm 40, I got kids now, I'm fat, I'm bald, I'm threw in the towel a long time ago. But I think we're living longer than ever before. And I think we need to focus in on ourselves and help ourselves, but also not at the sacrifice of like having relationships and friendships and things like that.
And I think that, so, you know, you brought up like men, we have this sort of like sexless generation coming up, but we also have more than ever more people on platforms like OnlyFans and stuff. So it's like this duality.
You're like a top 1%, right?
I'm a top 0.1% on OnlyFans. And this is one of my struggles that I have. I've never really talked about this, but I really struggle with this idea because I don't want a whole world of people just sitting on their phones, not talking to girls because it's scary and because they get rejected. So instead they go to OnlyFans and just get what they need there. I think it's a huge problem.
This episode of the Strong New York podcast is brought to you by Celsius. So if you need an extra little boost in the middle of your day or in the morning or whenever you need it, I have long days here in New York. So I grab myself a can of Celsius and I live fit.
As a creator, so I was like, you know.
Are your videos pretty intimate? Or?
Pretty intimate now. I mean, they're certainly not the most explicit thing you're going to find on there. For me, they feel pretty explicit now more than ever. And that's a whole other conversation of how it escalates over time. Because it's a business and people want more. So that's a whole other conversation. I started out just sort of like, oh, you know, I talk about sex all the time. I wonder how I would feel if I put some sexy photos out. Would anyone want them? No idea. I'll see how I feel. The first photos I put out were not naked at all. And it was just like in underwear. It was like a boudoir photo set, you know. And I put it out and I was like, oh, I'm fine with that. I feel fine with that. I also felt completely aware of the consequences of putting sexual material on the internet in terms of friends and family and kids. And I accepted that. And I'm like, I'm okay with those consequences. I can handle those conversations. But, and then over time, as I started to kind of try more things, I felt fine with it. However, I have a bigger picture issue, which is, you know, obviously most of the people that are on my OnlyFans are men, but also on my social media. Like my audience is 99% men. If you look at the breakdown of like my Instagram and stuff. And I feel a responsibility. I really like men. I have 4 older brothers. You know, I was super close to my dad. He's since passed. I really like men and I feel a responsibility to help them. Now, my account is a little bit different than your traditional OnlyFans account. I don't offer sexting. I don't offer girlfriend experience. I don't offer any kind of false relationship. Whereas that is the bread and butter of most accounts. Most accounts are not really making that much money from selling their photos and videos. Most of it is like sexting. So you
that's
DM,
where they make their money.
That's where you make the most money. For most girls, that's bread and butter. So the guy, you know, and you're actually, you're messaging them. You're trying to start conversations and you're dripping them.
So my understanding is that like most high level women who are making a ton of money on there, because guys don't make as much as the girls do on there.
No.
Not even close.
No.
And these women are making the money off, yes, like one-upping it, but a lot of times they have companies that do the texting for them. Correct?
This is obviously something that
has become a big business.
Yeah, it's not, I don't love talking about it because I never want to, other people's business is other people's business and how they run it. But it's also been out in like the New York Times and its articles have been out about this.
This is everywhere.
This is not private information at this point.
I've never been on the platform. I don't even know what the interface looks like.
A lot of people, and part of it is not out of a malicious intent. People are on the platform 24 hours a day, and it would be.
Oh, I believe it.
If you have 150,000 or 400,000, 500,000 followers, thousands of people are DMing you all day. Like, how are you?
You're not responding to
how
this.
Could you possibly? So it does get really hard. And so I do understand that. But sexting is where people make most of their money for a lot of these, or lives, which is different. But a lot of sexting is dripping. So, you know, it's like, hey, are you feeling horny? And then the guy's like, yeah. And if you try, and then you send a picture.
No?
No, I'm not horny right now. I'm good.
No. I actually just poured a cup of coffee. I'm all right.
I'm dead inside. No, thank you. So, you know, and then it's like every piece of content along this sexting drip gets more explicit and you pay more money to unlock it. Okay. So it's like, your picture of let me show you me topless. Now I'm touching myself. Do you want to see a video? Do you want to see what I'm doing now? And now I'm doing this. Now I'm doing that. Do you want to see it? And people can make $300, $500, $600 in a single conversation.
Holy shit.
And so if you multiply that across however many conversations a day, this 50. Is a lot of money. So I offer 0 sexting. I don't do it. I just don't do it. I never felt comfortable.
Asking, where does the bulk, like just you put out a picture, they want to see a video. And
I don't work with other creators. I don't do like porn in that way. It's just me. And I just kind of sometimes film things and that's what I put out. So I don't try to make it a performance. I don't try to do daddy porn voice. I try to make it authentic. I just kind of share my own things. And I also put out educational content. So I have a new educational video every single day that goes out, and a lot of my stuff. And then I do like a love line, almost like a Dr. Drew. So people can ask me their detailed questions. I don't say the names or personal information, but I show the question and I respond in depth to that question to try to. So a lot of my account is actually advice and education. And then I throw in my videos and photos and that's it. I don't offer anything else. And I don't the girlfriend experience is a thing a lot of people offer. So guys can literally pay to be messaging a girl all day as if it's his girlfriend.
I know. I watch, I mean, I'm a huge Instagram. I love Instagram. I find myself burrowing to the bottom all the time. And I come across these creators and these people who have podcasts and, obviously huge OnlyFans accounts. And there are these young girls.
Very young. Yeah.
Most of them are very young. And having 4 stepdaughters. Yeah. What do you think? How do you kind of tackle that conversation when we were younger, you became, let's just say, a bartender or a waitress, or you babysat, something pretty average.
Yeah.
Whereas now girls are like, oh, when I turn 18, I'm just going to get an OnlyFans and I'm going to make tons of money. They're making more than professional athletes. So how do you tell them not to do that when you're like, well, you're kind of set for life? But then in that same breath, a buddy of mine sent me a video of all these, it's an account of all these porn stars who are talking about how much regret they have after doing a lot of this stuff. Like, I heard one story where this girl was talking about a pretty famous porn star. This guy made her throw up and he peed in the same bowl, and then she had to drink it. And I'm like,
was this on an actual set?
Yeah, they were like
a professional set? Well, no, that
I don't know.
Filmed, or was that like a OnlyFans collaboration?
I think it was like an OnlyFans. Yeah. And I'm like, who the fuck wants to watch that? Okay. I think the kink and the gross shit has come to an all-time high.
Well, you hear about people in the like in Dubai. I don't know if you've heard about these parties.
Oh, these guys shitting on women and stuff?
In them too. What? On in their mouths and stuff. There was a woman.
Is that a real thing? That's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Why though?
I don't know what it is about money that corrupts to the point where you no longer see people as human and you are so bored that this is entertaining to you. And it's just a degradation to the point, to a more extreme, right?
Where it's almost like,
it's not about sex. That has nothing to do with sex.
It's almost like dominance over women. Yeah.
It's essentially dominance. It's the same as assault.
Yeah.
It's like, look what I can do. I'm so powerful. And look what this woman is willing to let me do. That is the power.
And that's what I think that's the decline of society right now.
But it's also quite sad because it's like, look what people are willing to risk.
For what, a fucking Gucci bag?
But but it's not always just a Gucci bag. Sometimes money really is, people say money doesn't buy happiness, but I think you're wrong. Money gives you choice. Mm-hmm. Where you send your kids to school. Can you take your kids on vacation? What doctors can you get if your kid gets sick, if you get sick? Yeah. Money gives you all of that. So, it's like, how is it different just because it's sex? How is it different than what we're watching when we see Netflix shows about, what's the
oh, yes, I know.
Squid Games.
Yeah.
It's not really I don't think this is a decline of society, because I don't think this is a new idea. I think it's really a reflection of income inequality and what people are willing to do to have money. And money is what you need these days more than ever to survive. But
I think we've become so obsessed with it. Like, nowadays, nobody wants a blue collar job. Nobody wants to do the average work anymore, where it's like, it used to be an honorable thing to become a cop or a mailman.
I don't think that's like, if you go to Canada has a culture of blue collar work and you get paid well for it, and people do it. It's normal. People go work on the oil rigs. People are electricians, but they make really good money. They have really good protections from unions, and it's respected. And people still do it. So I don't think this is a universal cultural issue.
I think it's just an American.
I think it's an American cultural issue, because OnlyFans exists all over there too.
Yeah.
I have, my husband's family is all in Canada, and almost all of them have blue collar jobs, and the younger people, younger than me, have blue collar jobs, but their blue collar jobs pay really well.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that it's necessarily, and I don't think that that's not fixable.
Do you think it's the corruption of big business? Like, for instance,
I think it trickles down from there.
I think, even for myself as a gym owner, I own 2 gyms, and everybody's like, well, how do you compete against Equinox and all these? I go, I have to focus on my community and build community.
And you have to do a pocket. You can't just run a business anymore.
No.
You have to be a business person that has your physical business. And then you have to be like this.
A media expert.
Yeah. Right.
Like there are so many facets of my job. And everybody's like, well, you never sleep. I'm like, I can't because I'm competing against, it's like the mom and pop shop that's right next to Walmart. Like, how do you compete against them? They have more shit. People are just going to go there, and they eventually put you out of business. And now whatever they don't put out of business, they just buy up that business. So it's like, that's what the America's
How do we get life balance that way? How do you get life balance when you have to make an amazing TikTok account?
Yeah.
Right. In order for people, it's like, the guy that goes, there's a guy that does like restaurant reviews on TikTok. And when he does, he'll do mom and pop restaurants and he will change the business for them.
Oh, yeah.
He goes there.
Well, I mean, Dave Portnoy does a good job.
And it's like that. It's like this weird thing with social media that you need in order to survive.
Yeah.
And you have to try to create it yourself if you can. So you're not just running a restaurant or a gym anymore.
No,
you're running a podcast and a TikTok account and you're, editing and
we have, as the business has grown, the two of us just do so much, like we don't stop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to hire like 3 more people, but we're only making enough for what we need.
I know. It's like this weird accordion thing where it's like, in order to expand, you need to hire all these people, but you can't hire these people until you expand enough to afford to hire those people. So you do it yourself.
Yeah.
Which means it's at some point, it's like, how much can you do as a 1-person or a 2-person team is very hard.
Yeah.
I think that, going back to this OnlyFans thing, it is hard because I see OnlyFans as multiple things. I think porn has a perfectly good and useful place in society. I really do. I think we're visual creatures. We like to hear things. We like to see things.
But it's mostly men, isn't it? Like mostly men are the,
yes.
I was watching a TED talk.
Yes. They're the ones driving all of it.
Yeah. There was a TED talk and this guy said, he goes, I want you guys to guess how much women have spent on OnlyFans or pornography last year. $0 fucking dollars.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's, you know how much men spent? $8 trillion last year.
I see a lot of right-wing men really railing against it, but I'm like, stop yelling at the women.
No.
Yell at each other.
Yeah.
We're not, if you guys weren't there, but it's not.
If guys weren't lining their pockets, they wouldn't be doing it. Yeah.
But I'm also, here's the deal. It's not called the newest profession. It's called the oldest profession.
Yeah.
It's been going on since
the dawn of time.
Jesus
hung out with a prostitute.
That's right. And he was like, hey, stop throwing stones. Do you live in a glass house, you dirty little
piece of shit?
Piece of shit. I know what you've been doing. This is not new. Okay. So it's also not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. And
I think that this like weird repression thing, it's a strange beast because on one hand, like I truly believe that we need to decriminalize sex work. We need to really put our focus on traffickers. Right.
That's the most fun.
That is the problem. Yeah. And when women are safe, people are safe in general. It means that women it means everyone gets tested, first of all. So it keeps people physically safe. It means people are paying taxes on what they make, which is not going anywhere, by the way. And it also means that if somebody is abusive, they can go to the cops, right? So it prevents abuse, it prevents violence, and also it just takes things out of the shadows. And I think that that is an important aspect to actually getting rid of the weird repression and therefore that whiplash of like bizarre stuff. I was talking to this, it was interesting though, you were saying something about like, people are getting into the weirdest stuff now and like it's getting more extreme in porn.
Like do you feel like that when I watched porn as a kid, I really don't watch
You were just
porn.
like, wow, her boobs are big.
Oh my God.
That's so exciting.
But I had magazines and shit stuffed underneath my bed.
You probably only needed the Sears catalog to go look at the underwear section. It wasn't even porn. You're like, wow.
Like you had to like imagine what was going on because it was just a still shot.
You're like, she's pretty.
And you're flipping through a magazine just imagining what was actually going on in that room.
And now it's like...
But I don't remember like finding that like a guy shitting on a woman, like even all this, the Vince McMahon stuff you heard about, like all the you're like, where the fuck does that come in?
See, but that is rape culture.
Which is bizarre,
that's
disgusting.
Just dominance and a need to feel powerful, and you're willing to just, it's not, that's not even really a sex issue.
And then all this stuff with like P. Diddy and shit, where it's like, you're, this idea of like, just making people feel like absolute fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And then watching other people sleep with your wife. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck people are into.
I do some of the swinging stuff. So I am very much in that world. I'm a little bit weird. I'm like a terrible swinger, but I have done those things before. But there is a huge difference between a sex party and a Diddy party. And the difference there is consent, right? And that is all the difference in the world. So if a bunch of consenting adults want to get together and be weird, cool. But if a bunch of adults want to be coerced and threatened other adults into doing things they don't want to do, and then, using drugged up baby oil, or whatever, GHB baby oil to sort, and then like, this is not the same thing. Right. As adults, being a bit weird. Like,
I think the whole trafficking thing, like when I hear people like, oh, he's trafficking all these women. Were these people who are like, oh, I want to go to this party and do this, or were they?
I think if they did, they really didn't know what they were talking about. They just thought, I want to go to a Diddy party. Like, he's famous.
I know people who've been to those parties.
Well, there were two versions of his party.
Yeah. I think there was like
it's like the daytime, nighttime. There was like the celebrity, like, oh, we're going to the white party. Did you get into the white party? Yeah. And then there was what happens after.
I think it was Dave Chappelle was making the joke about it. He goes, because I've been to them. Yeah. And he goes, nobody's ever asked me to join in on this shit. He goes, so what is it? I'm ugly?
He's like, I'm offended now.
A buddy of mine said the same thing. He was like, I've been to the parties. He goes, I never saw any of that. I go, because you're too fucking ugly.
He's like, what am I, chopped liver?
Yeah. They didn't want you involved.
Well, and I'm sure you would, if you were Diddy, you probably had to be very careful about who you let in. And it's people you think you can control, or who are going to like what you're doing and want to be a part of it on your side, or if not, are going to be coerced into it and controlled. But you don't want somebody who has no skin in the game, who's going to go there and be like, what the is this? Yeah. And then go talk about it because they can't be controlled in the industry by you.
Well, and that's another thing. And I think right now, more than ever before, like this pedophilia, it's been around because we're finding out that it's all through the 80s and 90s.
Oh, it's been around for all of time.
Oh my God.
Have you looked at the Greeks and the Romans? They were all
banging little boys and shit. Yeah. Well, it was just so in the shadows before, and now it's like coming to life. Yeah. It's insane to me how we've almost like normalized this pedophilia. And that exactly what you said. What's his name? Who's Epstein? Yeah. Right. Like there was a video, I watched one of the documentaries, and there were like pictures on his wall of like little girls having their period. And it's like, fucking,
I hadn't heard that.
If I walked into my buddy's house, right?
And you saw that.
And I saw that, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck is with that?
Yes.
Like no one's setting. So everybody who's been to his house had to be like, that's a weird picture to have up. Yep. Like I have old framed pictures of like a Billy Joel concert I went to. And like, I bought this shirt because I'm obsessed with the artist, like old school, like, metal music type shit. I'm like, I would find it absolutely bizarre if I went into one of my friends' homes and they had like pictures of little girls naked. That I'm like,
I think that there isn't, and I think there's that like sort of thing that some of the people on the fringes, it's like, when someone's like rich and famous and you go to their house and they're weird and you just kind of like, yeah, that guy's a bit weird, but as long as you're not part of it, you just kind of file it away and they just go with the flow while thinking, yeah, that guy's a bit weird. And they just don't want to ask too many hard questions. I don't think there's anybody that went to his parties that did not know that he was into weird stuff and he had young girls. I don't think that everybody that went to his party was maybe partaking, but everybody that's hanging out with that guy knows what's up.
Do you think it's a power money thing, or is it an actual sickness? Because
When it comes to him?
I have nieces. I have
Yeah.
6 little nieces.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're little girls.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird.
I think it's a sickness. And I also think that it's also, because it's not just power and money, because there's people on all levels of society and that are into this. I don't know if you saw, I don't want to misquote, but it was something very extreme. There was recently, in the last year or so, there was a study in Australia where they did a huge, massive, thousands and thousands of people, of men, and they asked them, and it was all anonymous answers. And it was like a very large percentage of men said that they had sexual attraction to young people, to minors. We're talking like, it was like a quarter of them. It was something absolutely, and I was like, Jesus. And so I think it's always been there. I don't think it's about power and money that drives that interest, but I think power and money allows it to flourish often. And I think that, I think porn makes it worse. And I think we have a problem. And I would like the porn industry to start being more responsible, because let's say you log on to Pornhub, okay? And Pornhub is going to have things like teen stepsister, and it's all but saying, she's not a minor, but they pick a girl who is 18 who looks as young as possible. Mm-hmm. They make her dress young, and they even make it seem like she's family, right? She's stepfamily. A stepsister is one of the biggest. A step sibling is one of the biggest like genres of porn, and I think if you are a man and you are struggling with these feelings. Maybe they're not super extreme and you're kind of ashamed and it's in this dark place and you have this attraction to some teen girl. And then when you go to Pornhub and it ushers you in and goes like, here, watch this, enjoy this. And then here's more. And then here's more. Mm-hmm. What does that do to you subconsciously? Because one of the ways—
it allows you to think it's okay.
Yeah. And one of the ways that you rewrite the subconscious mind, one of the ways that we create change or create a pattern is repetition. Repetition rewrites our patterns, okay? Our belief systems. Just like if you walked around every day saying something negative to yourself, your self-talk was super negative, right? Then that becomes your belief system about who you are, and therefore it drives your behavior, right? If you feel like I'm disgusting, I'm worthless, you eat that way, you behave that way, it becomes who you are. So if you are seeing porn on repetition that is telling you, showing you these themes, normalizing these ideas, it's going to reinforce this. And I believe it's going to create a bigger driver of your behavior. I think it's going to reinforce that and create a bigger monster. Mm-hmm. And we also have no place for men to go. So what if you were a man? And I'm not trying to be over here saying like, let's love the pedophiles. Don't get me wrong. But if you are a man and you have these feelings, what are you supposed to do?
These are the same fucking people, I feel like, who shoot up schools and shit.
Where do you go?
Yeah.
Who do you talk to? Who do you tell that you have an attraction to minors? Do you go to your therapist? You're going to tell a therapist? Who are you going to tell? Nobody. So then what are you going to do? You're going to feel...
And then they have no outlet to get laid either. Like, I mean, I think it's very natural and normal for people to have sex. I think you should be having...
There's no outlet and there's no help. Yeah. And if you went to let's say there was a therapy center that helped men with their feelings, you're not going to want to show up there.
No. Yeah.
So we don't also have resources, and we need more, I think we need more research into
why,
if there are early interventions, And I think that a lot of these men actually have these feelings when they're quite young, towards younger people, often teens even. They're feeling these feelings. But of course, it's really hard. No teen is going to tell anyone else what they're thinking and feeling. And then it grows over time. And I just think it is actually a huge issue. It always has been, but we're talking about it now.
Well,
porn maybe is making it worse. And we have no resources for it.
I think this generation of sad, lonely people, and it's even people our age as well, because again, there's this whole, well, one, people aren't drinking as much, so you're not going out and you're not interacting with people, both on both ends, both men and women.
Absolutely.
And so there's no outlet for people to communicate. There's no outlet for things to organically happen anymore.
You don't grow skills. Like a lot of times I think people that are intimidated to go out and meet people or socialize feel like, well, everyone else knows how to do it. I don't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't like, for a certain percentage of people, they're social butterflies. For a lot of other people, it's actually a skill you learn.
Yeah.
And you learn by doing. And you can actually improve your ability to talk to people. And so,
but you only develop that by actually going and doing it.
yes,
Right? You can't talk about doing it.
you can't think about it. You can't
Yeah.
read books about it. You
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
do it, but you can learn it. You
Mhm.
can get better.
sure.
And so, but you have to, you have to actually do. And it's like, but I even say, like, you could take classes on, if you want to talk to girls and you're intimidated, you don't have to go to one of those like terrible pickup artists. Okay.
Some guy who's dressed like an asshole.
Like wear like a magician.
Yeah, the
And
top
he's going
hat.
to tell you how to
Yeah.
meet girls. But they've gotten more sophisticated, these guys
Mm-hmm.
that teach these. And because what they're teaching is not the actual ability to interact with another human and get to know them. And they're telling you how to dominate them, which will never lead to a meaningful relationship and will leave you feeling empty. And that's where I really want to be able to help men. And I try to help men through the advice and the education, because I don't think there's a lot of really great resources for them. There's a lot of like guys online who are taking it and radicalizing young men in their anger and resentment.
Yeah.
And that is no way to ever connect with another person on a meaningful level. If you are angry against the person you want to connect with,
Yes, I agree.
you will never have a healthy relationship.
So what's your first kind of piece of advice? How do you help these guys out? Like what should these guys be doing?
Well, I always tell people, it's like, okay, so there's a both an inside out and an outside in thing you have to accomplish, right? You do have to look at yourself and you have to do some work on your why. Like, for example, a lot of men say they feel like they have an addiction to porn. And that is a little bit complicated. It's like sex addiction and porn addiction are not recognized diagnoses in therapy. Okay. You can't actually be diagnosed with that, but you can be diagnosed with out of control sexual behaviors, for example. But this is not an addiction to sex. Okay. This is a coping mechanism for stress, anxiety, and loneliness. And that's what I want to help people understand, men to understand the most, which is if you feel that you have an addiction to porn, which a lot of men feel right now that they have an addiction to porn. And I do believe they feel addicted to porn. But what it is this has become a coping mechanism for anxiety and loneliness and insecurity and sadness. Okay. So
it's like drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which can be very healthy and fine and help you socialize for a lot of people. And then other people, of course,
Abuse it.
abuse it. But what you need to look at is not stopping yourself from watching porn. That's what most people do. They go into these like fake therapy programs where they essentially say, you have to not watch porn. And if you watch a porn, you've failed and you have to make promises to your wife. Well, what happens is it creates this pass fail mentality that often feeds the feelings of worthlessness and loneliness, right? You fail at something and then you feel like, well, I can't help it. I'm broken. I'm a failure. I'm a liar. I'm a piece of shit. So that is not a very helpful process. So the first thing you have to look at is, why are you lonely? Why are you anxious? What's creating this? And how can you start to work on those things? So some of it is enriching your life, like looking at what coping mechanisms can you give to yourself when you're feeling sad, anxious, lonely, that is not porn. Doing some work ahead of time to come up with a plan. Okay. This is not about saying I'm not going to watch porn, because the more you focus, your subconscious mind doesn't deal with negatives. Okay. So if I say it's the classic, don't think of a pink elephant, what do you think of?
Pink elephant.
That's all you think about. Okay. So if you're like, I'm not going to watch porn, I'm not going to watch porn, all your subconscious mind is thinking about is porn.
Yeah.
And now you see it as this like big red do not touch button. that's like blinking at you. And that's very, very hard. But instead of focusing on not watching porn, instead you focus on adding things to your life. Okay. That may be therapy and working out at the gym. Okay. Yeah. And running and exercising, calling an old friend and getting an old friendship going again. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling sad. I'm going to call my friend that I let my friendship go and I'm going to reconnect. I'm going to join a group that goes hiking. You know, if you go to it's still there. If you go to meetup.com or Facebook groups, there are groups that do everything.
I think so many people are running into this wall of loneliness where there are so many different ways and so many different outlets that you could find. And how I approach this, I have a lot of people come to me, men and women, who are like, I'm just unhappy. I'm sad. I'm guessing it's starting with my physical being. So I try to help people chalk up little wins.
Yeah.
Have a healthier meal. Get to the gym. Do these little things that add up to the big things because I want to meet somebody. What I tell people, comparing your body to a car all the time is a good way to do it. And even going to a dealership. So I say, okay, if you were a certain amount of money, what would you say you were? Right? You want to go buy a Ferrari. You want to go buy a Ferrari, but you only have $500 in your pocket. You want to have enough money in your wallet to go buy this Ferrari. So you need to invest in yourself. You need to build up yourself.
You can't just focus on that Ferrari.
Yes.
Because that's going to leave you with a fail.
Yeah.
Because what does that mean?
Well, because everybody has these
lofty dreams.
Yes, of I look better than I actually do, or they downplay themselves. I'm like, all right, work on yourself, take care of yourself, do all these little things. And that's where I think a lot of people fail. I always tell people I'm an accountability coach. I'm a consistency coach. I need to just get you doing this thing every day, all the time to get better.
It's like if you say, I want to meet somebody, which a lot of people do. I want to meet a girl. I want to meet a girl. It's like, okay, or I'm going to want to meet a guy. Let's get rid of that for a second.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Because what does it take? You have to get out in public. You have to put yourself in situations where you're going to meet people and you have to be an interesting person and you have to be emotionally healthy. When you do those things, meeting somebody becomes easy.
So easy. Yeah.
Okay. So, but when you only focus on meeting somebody and you don't do it just the same thing, if you go, I want to have a hot body and you just it's like, don't worry about the thing you're trying to do, the steps that take, worry about the little steps. Because if you start eating better and you start doing these small wins every day, I go to the gym 5 days a week, you're going to get that body.
You become more appealing. You're appealed. Yes. That person's appealing to you because you're admiring all the things that they're doing. Look at what they're doing. Yes. Try to mimic what they're doing. So then you become more attractive to them as well.
Yes.
Nobody wants to be with somebody who has zero,
social skills
going on.
They're sad. They're unhappy. They're emotionally unhealthy.
To be around.
Yeah. They don't leave their phones. You can't just focus on, I want to meet somebody.
Yeah.
It's like,
I want a good body.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
It's everything else. So you stop focusing on that and start thinking about those other steps. Because if you do that, those things will come so much more easily to you. And I think it's just like you said, that it's just the same between how we treat our bodies, how we treat our minds, and how we treat our relationships. In relationships, we tend to wait until there's a 5-alarm fire before we start doing any work on it. Right? We're like, I got to go to therapy because, he cheated. And it's like, what was going on in the 3 years before? We can't wait that long. By then, you're in a really tough position. And same thing, it's like, I think now most people are understanding the ideal way to go about health is maintenance, not
it's every day.
Have to get way overweight and unhappy and miserable and then have to start from there. That's a hard place to start.
It's prehab instead of rehab.
Yes. And the same thing for relationships, right? Yeah. It's not that it can't be done, but that's a much harder position to put yourself in. I mean, I think it's even if relationships, if you're lucky enough that therapy is covered under your insurance, for example, but you could also find coaches or whatever. But it's even a once a month or once every 3 months where you go as a couple and check in, even though nothing's wrong. That is a really good way to do it because you guys are going to learn You're going to have some good conversations. You're going to learn some skills for communicating. You're going to strengthen your bond. You don't have to wait until there is a fire in the house, to start strengthening those muscles.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we think of therapy or relationship therapy and relationship health the same way we think about our body.
What I've done for myself, just to manage stress and things like that, I love going and playing other sports or giving myself little goals to do and things like that. I encourage people all the time to go join a run group, meet other people, get some new friends. Like, you can never have enough friends. And you'll never know who you're going to meet, who's going to help you, not even on a social level, but also on a financial level, a business level.
Yeah.
I think every time I go, there's a lot of times, even for myself, I hate being like, oh, fuck, I worked all day and now I'm going to go out. Like last night, I didn't want to go out. It was at 9:00 at night. We went to this men's meetup. I'm so glad I did, because I met this guy who's like, I'd love to get you in my mastermind. I love what you're doing. And I go, fuck, this was so worth it.
How many times it's like you don't want to go out, you're tired, you could just stay home. But how many times after you actually go out do you regret it?
No, never. And I say the same thing about the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I go, going to the gym is the hardest part. Getting there is the hardest part. You'll never leave the gym and say, I really should have done that. That was a waste. Yeah, never.
No, you always feel good about yourself. Yeah. You always feel so much better. And I think it's absolutely true with socializing. And a lot of these people, it's like, well, how do you get out of this rut? How do you meet somebody? And it's like, work on yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to get out and socialize. You have to join groups. I think in the 50s, we really had a culture of like people joined, women would play. I mean, I'm not saying the gender roles needed to be this way, but just in terms of how we socialized in community. Mm-hmm. Men joined the Elks Club, the Rotary Club, the bowling league, and women played bridge and had the women over from the neighborhood, and it's like, that was a very healthy,
but I think
social dynamic.
There's something to that. Like, every once in a while, me and my brother, a couple of our friends, we'll get together, we'll smoke. And most of our friends are married and stuff now. And we'll get together and smoke cigars and just hang out. And it's like, it doesn't have to be this formal thing. You don't have to join a club. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I got to go out. All right, should I show up to a bar by myself? It's like, no, there's so many social outlets. You just have to find the one that appeals to you. Whether it's playing fucking magic cards, because I know a lot of guys who are into that shit, or, I loved going to jujitsu. I go down there, I'm with 60 guys in a basement beating the shit out of each other. It's just our way of bonding. And now I have all these new friendships.
Yes.
Christy's always like, oh, you can meet anybody anywhere. I'm like, but I like being social. I want to interact with more people. You never know how much value you add to somebody or how much value somebody could add to your life. I think 100% people need to go out.
And people used to meet people through friends as well, romantically. It would be like, a friend would be like, I think Diane and Jack would really get along with Diane. We should introduce them. Yeah. But you got to make friends for that to happen. Not every social interaction also, it's like hanging out with the guys is healthy. You may not be meeting a girl when you go join jujitsu. Maybe there's a few, maybe there's not, but you're going to work on yourself. You're going to have something to talk about. You're going to improve your health. You're going to make friends. And often that leads to enriching your life in so many other ways. Like you said, networking, meeting a romantic partner. All of those things are so healthy. And that's my biggest piece of advice always for men is like, put down your phone. I know I'm telling you to stop being on this platform that I'm on, but I say it all the time. Yeah. I'm like, put your phone down and you have to go out there into the world. One
of the best things I heard in the last couple of months was I was watching an interview with John Danaher, who's like a high level, probably the highest level jiu-jitsu coach. And he's like, you should always work on your skills. He goes, because your skills are something that your reputation is based off what people think of you, what they see of you, but your skills, what you are capable of doing and what you could offer somebody else is always the most important thing. So work on those. Like, what are your attributes? What do people see in you that like they see value in, and you see value in yourself? Yeah. It validates you because now you feel like you could contribute to society. I think everyone should have a purpose. And that's what I was saying. If you marry somebody who doesn't really have much going on, eventually they're going to get depressed and sad because they offer no value.
Or if you start, it's sometimes if you end up in two different levels, and it can be really hard on a relationship where one person is growing and the other person is not growing.
Yes.
And that can be very hard.
What's your thoughts on like the divorce rate right now? Like, and like why? Because I think societally, I think people still feel like, oh, I need to be married. I need to have kids. This is like a must in my life. I've never really felt that pressure. I'm like, when I meet somebody and things are great, then it makes sense to do it. But I think a lot of people do it. And then they're like, fuck, is this it? I mean, there was a girl who used to come to our gym who all her friends got married. She's like, I'm going to get married too. Divorced in 6 months. But it's like, I could have told, I actually did say it. I go, watch, I got the over under on a year. And
yeah, well, I think people kind of end up often marriage is more about right
success.
Place, right time than it is about right person. Often it's like, I'm at the point in my life where I feel like I'm ready and I'm dating this guy. So this is it.
This is what's supposed to happen.
You know, it's just the next step. But I think that the divorce rate just makes a lot of sense because relationships are hard. And we live in a world where people are, there's a lot of choices now, even though people struggle with dating. I think there's the idea that there's endless choices because of swiping. You know, there's this feeling that there's always something more. But I also think relationships are just hard. And I think when women have more choices of what they do with their lives, you're going to have fewer babies, and it's going to make it a little bit more complicated because my grandma's generation didn't really have a choice. They couldn't have a credit card and they couldn't really leave, and divorce was considered terrible. So when their husband comes home, drinks a lot and pushes them around the house, and that's it.
That's what life was. Right?
That's it. Yeah. So that a lack of divorce is not a reflection of happy relationships.
No.
So I'm not surprised by that. And I don't necessarily think it's a terrible thing. I do wish I would rather have people not get married, but make good choices about partnerships and how you raise your kids and stuff than get married because you're supposed to and then have these horrible divorces. But
I think there's more so for women than men, but both sides definitely feel it because I've gotten the question too, is that a lot of people, or the statement, it's almost like you're unsuccessful if you're not in a relationship. It's almost like you failed at life. Like, you're not married yet?
Like, why are you single? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, which is wild. But
it's, I think a lot of people, now more so than ever, women have the choice. And they're like, I'm not ready. I'm not willing to settle. I think that's super important. Like, why get into it if it doesn't feel right?
Yeah, I think that, it's a really tough dynamic because a lot of men are feeling like women are choosing, they're not getting married and they're having all these problems, and men are like a little bit bitter right now. There's a lot of men who are really bitter and resentful towards women, but it's tough. I'm like, your only answer to this is to grow.
And to get better. To offer as much as you possibly can, build as much value in yourself as you can.
I don't think you can say to women, you're getting too many choices, too much money, too much business success, that you're not choosing me, so we have to limit you.
Yeah. I
don't think that's a sustainable answer. It only creates more resentment and divide. I think you have to rise up.
And again, I think it's similar to parenting, right? Like, my parents never told me like, you can't go do this, you can't go do that. Make your own choices, do what you want. And if you fuck up, that's on you. So I think relationships are similar. Like, I would never want to be with someone and tell them, don't go here, don't go there. As soon as I talk to a girl and she starts telling me like, where were you? What's your, it's
not
like,
good, right? Yeah.
Chill the fuck out. Yeah. I don't want to hear any of that shit.
That's not the dynamic you want.
That's not the dynamic. And I wouldn't want to do that to you. I never want to tell you who you could hang out with, what you could do. Yeah. If you're with somebody, you should like them for the shit they like doing. Like, if somebody,
and you want someone who just chooses you.
Yes.
They don't have to be with you, vice versa. You're not coerced to be together.
Yeah. Or forced into like a situation.
Yeah. Or financially you can't leave and they can't leave. Exactly. It's a person who chooses to be with you and vice versa because you like them.
Yeah. And I I'd want the person that I'm with to be ambitious, successful, doing other things. The idea behind marrying somebody who's fucking useless to society, I'd be like, why would I want to be with
But that is because you feel you have something to offer. You know, a lot of people don't feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if someone else is too dynamic, it can feel...
Scares them off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to touch on was your workout regimen.
Oh,
you know, because we, this is what we do. I mean, strength is not only mental and emotional, but also physical. So you had mentioned before you did a little Pilates and running and you didn't.
Yeah. I was just sort of like doing everything except lifting. And then I really started to think about aging because I'm turning 43 this year. And I was like, you know, the next 20 years are really, really important. And when I think about, well, first of all, I know for women's health that like muscle mass is really, really important. We're losing it as we get older. And I looked at my mom. My mom has since passed, but she played tennis her whole life. And she was very fit and she walked every day. But as soon as she sort of like stopped playing tennis, her downturn was so rapid.
Yeah.
And it really kind of scared me. I thought, I think it's not enough for me to just be like, I run, I walk, I do some Pilates. I'm like, I need to actually be strong. And I also have rods in my back for scoliosis. So I had pretty severe scoliosis. I still have curvature of my spine. I have 2 metal rods in my back from a backwards S curve, you know, and I have read a lot of forums from people who've had the same surgery as me. They no longer use the kind of rods that I have. They do things that are better. These have had problems. And all of the people that have had severe back problems basically were not healthy. They didn't take care of their bodies. And I'm like, you know, when I'm young, I was lucky my whole life. I could basically eat anything I wanted, do whatever I wanted, and be fine. It's just always, I've always been like that. I could eat like a lumberjack and be like, you know, and then I was like, oh, that's not going to work for me. I can't just have that. That's not going to work for me as in the next 20 years. I need to actually be strong. And for brain health too, Alzheimer's runs in my family. My mom had Alzheimer's. And I did a 23andMe. And I have one genetic marker for Alzheimer's, and my mom had it, which then raises it another 15% chance of me getting it. And
you could definitely slow it down a little bit, though, for sure.
Yes,
exercise and
it's not an automatic; it's not an absolute, but I definitely have a risk of getting it. And I'm like, I need to work out, I need to be strong, I need to lift. So it's only been a few months that I've been really focusing on it, but I got a trainer.
Where do you train?
A gym called Cult Fitness in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas?
It's more of a serious gym of like I have the smallest ass in the entire gym. Like, just no doubt. Like, I walk in there and I'm like, oh, I just feel like this little, because the women in there are so strong. There's a lot of professional competitors there. They have a room for posing for the posing coaches. No, it's like real.
Vegas is, I got to check that gym out next time I'm out there.
But it's also friendly and nice. And I really, really like it.
Is it the one that's got like trees and shit in it?
I think that is a different gym called, no, it doesn't have trees, but it's similarly lit as this other really popular gym that a lot of pros go to. But this one's kind of new. It's in Henderson.
Okay.
But I looked at it one day. It's next to my grocery store. And I was like, I've been thinking about how I need to lift. And then I love books on cults. Like, I really love the psychology of cults, and it's called Cult Fitness. And I was like, you know what?
Sounds good.
I'm feeling this is a sign. So I walked in there at random and ended up meeting a trainer there. And I've been working out with her, and she's awesome. She's really pushing me, and I'm learning a lot. And like you said, there's not a day that I walk out of there where I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't want to go, but it's felt really good. I knew I needed to get a trainer though, because I know me. And at this point, because I know I'm building habits, I'm like, I need someone waiting for me.
For sure. I think it's the most important, whether you find a community that's looking for you or a trainer, you make that appointment. For myself, even as I do this for a living, but if I don't make an appointment with my coach over at jiu-jitsu. I'll take class, but sometimes I'll like talk myself out of it. I'm like, I don't really need to go. And I'm like, no, I should go. And I'll just walk in that direction. But if I have an appointment with my coach, I'll make appointments.
Yeah.
I mean, she can tell you, I'll go at like 8, 9 o'clock at night and I'll go work with him for an hour, hour and a half. And every time I go, I'm like, it is worth every dollar. And I pay him a nice chunk of change to train me.
Yeah.
And I never regret the money. I think the money is worth every dollar. And I tell people, I'm investing in my life. It makes me feel better. There is no downside. The hardest thing is just showing up. There's no downside to exercise.
There is no downside. And I mean, it couldn't be, what's a bigger thing to invest in, really? Like, what's a more important thing to invest in?
Eventually, you're going to throw these clothes away. You don't want them anymore. You'll move into a different house. You'll buy a new pair of glasses, whatever it may be. But your body is your body, and you can't.
That's it. So only
you can't buy a new one.
Yeah, and you talk about being like an accountability coach, and I was like, I had to have a hard look at myself. I was like, you know what? I'm a very busy person, and I will, if I don't have someone waiting for me, I will put it at the bottom of the totem pole every time. I will just put I've got 10 other things to do, which I do. Like I actually, the time I take at the gym is taking away from other things I need to be doing, no doubt. But it's important. And I realized a couple of things. I was trying to force myself to do morning workouts my whole life. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me that I could just work out in the evenings. I'm not a morning person at all. And I would just like skip it, even if I paid. Like paying it's not enough for me. I can have a really expensive Pilates membership and I still will skip half the ones I put in my calendar that I sign up for. And so this year I was like, okay, paying for things is not enough. So I need to stop pretending. Mornings are not working for me and I need to find a new time and I need to get a trainer because I will not let a person down who's waiting for me. And I will have to pay extra for it. And that's just going to be the price that I pay. And I made those changes and they were all correct.
But now you exercising and doing all these things and coming to those realizations adds to every other cup that you have though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your relationships, your work, everything gets filled by you doing this one thing and you come to and I tell people that I don't like working out in the morning, come at night. I don't like lifting heavy weights, then we'll start lighter. I can't come at that. Great. We'll figure it out. There is so many avenues and stop making excuses and just get the shit done. That's what I tell people.
I used to be like, I just struggle. I have too many things to do in my day. And then I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I can find a time.
Yeah.
I'm going shopping this afternoon. I'm finding the time.
Yeah.
There's other things I could be doing, but I'm in New York and I decided that was important because I wanted to go shopping because I'm in New York. Yeah. You can find the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing it after dinner. And I used to be like, no, because I need time to unwind. I need that evening time to unwind because I don't have any other me time. And then at some point I was like, you know what? The gym's going to be my me time. And actually,
and you probably
it's
have a good rap with her. You hang
She's
out.
awesome. Also, we have 5 kids. We have a lot of work. It's actually awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I go to the gym and it's like, this is actually incredible.
For sure. I love it. Kate, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Where could everybody find you?
At Kate Shelor on Instagram is the best place. KATESHELOR.
This was amazing. Guys, like, subscribe, share with a friend. Thank you guys so much for showing up. And as always, stay strong.